Today I, Will Probeck, aka Proby Barbosa, have the honor of speaking with and sharing a virtual cup of coffee with Anders Gronstedt, aka Anders Wildcat, president of the Gronstedt Group in Louisville, Colorado. We are in the Second Life Train for Success virtual environment. It is always a pleasure meeting with you in Second Life, Anders.
Hey, hi Bill. Thank you for inviting me.
By the way, I first met Anders a few years ago in the real world at Brandon Hall Conference. It was my first exposure to virtual worlds, and I've attended numerous Second Life meetings with him ever since. Before I ask you a few questions, I would like to share some background information on you for the audience. Anders is president of the Gronstedt Group, a global firm specializing in improving frontline performance with consulting and custom developed simulations, podcasting, Second Life, virtual world experiences, and other innovative learning approaches. A former member of the Graduate Integrated Marketing Communications faculty at the University of Colorado, Dr. Gronstedt is a world-renowned management consultant, speaker, and author of the book Customer Century: Lessons from World-Class Companies in Integrated Communications. His presentations frequently focus on how a completely new breed of game-savvy and socially network employees is entering the workforce with little patience for traditional doldrums of workplace training. They want to be engaged, in control, and part of the storyline. Leading companies like IBM, Ericsson, Nike, and EMC are turbocharging workplace performance with learning programs that focus on doing, simulating, socializing, playing, sharing, and collaborating. Participants learn how to redefine and energize internal communications with the sprawling, vibrant 3D worlds of online interactive environments like Second Life, turn the morning commute into a learning experience with fast-paced, audio-style podcast audio feeds, and help people learn by doing with video-based, character-rich, game-based simulations. You certainly have a lot on your plate, Anders.
Thank you, yeah. That was a mouthful.
I would like to now ask you a few questions. And the first questions, could you give the audience some additional background information on yourself and how you went from being a marketing communications professor at CU Boulder to owning your own business?
Sure. I left CU about 12 years ago, and I did consulting on the side as a professor and decided to focus on that full time. My research as a professor had focused on integrated communications, on how large companies can project a more consistent brand message to customers. And I found out through research in companies like FedEx and Saturn and others that it really comes down to frontline training, to getting all of the employees and partners to exude the same brand message, to treat customers in a consistent way, and that in turn really comes down to training them to do it well. They're usually employees are usually well-intentioned and like to do a good job, but they're just woefully underprepared and undertrained to do so. And the existing training methods of herding people into a classroom is just becoming more and more inefficient, impractical in today's global organizations, and we're finding a lot more effective methods to do that, and that's what we've dedicated ourselves to help client organizations to do at the Gronstedt Group. So we help large organizations, US-based and European-based companies, to develop things like podcasting so they can learn as they drive to work, or via video-based simulations where they can interact with sales and experience real-life sales scenarios via video online, and the type of 3D virtual world environment like the ones we're in here, where you can do role play and product visualization and hold everything from large-scale conferences to small group collaboration sessions and mentoring sessions, for instance.
What was one of your first companies that you started working with?
Well, Volvo Cars has been a long-term client. It was our first client. We helped them with the benchmark project some 12 years ago. And as far as the virtual worlds, Electrolux, another Swedish brand, was one of our first projects in Second Life. But we worked with a Dell, HP included, Sprint, TELUS, Canadian Telecom as well.
Okay, great. And the second question, how did you get involved with Second Life, and what do you see as the future of Second Life and other virtual worlds?
So our first few products were more marketing focused, but we quickly realized that the real benefits of a virtual world like Second Life is in internal collaboration and training in meetings. Could be internal or with key customers or other key stakeholders. The ability to do synchronous activities to really draw on the social experience of giving people a sense of being together is really, if you want, the killer app of virtual worlds. You have this incredible sense of being in the presence of other people here. So rather than staring at a phone or staring at a PowerPoint slide, which is a typical way to conduct remote meetings, you have this ability to pull people together, give them a sense of being together in the 3D world, and by even using 3D voice, where you hear people from the direction where they stand. And you can do things here that you really can't do even in a physical environment. You can role play in a more realistic environment. You can pull something out of your inventory at a moment's notice and look at a product, for instance, and crawl around it, walk around it, inspect it, scale things up and scale things down, walk inside of a molecule, or walk on top of a map that where you've superimposed data, for instance.
The more times I go into Second Life, the more comfortable I get. Do you think that's more people are getting comfortable and more familiar with the virtual worlds?
Yeah, sure. It's like using your BlackBerry. It's the first few times you have to really think hard about how you do things, but after a while it becomes completely second nature, and you come to completely focus on the content instead of the mechanics of how to move around. We have the introduction process now down to half an hour, and that includes the download of the software, just to get people started, even if they've never been in a 3D virtual world before, just to get people familiar with the idea of navigating the avatar with our arrow keys and talking into the microphone and on your headset and typing your messages. It really doesn't take a whole lot to get people started, and after a few meetings, most people have gotten the hang of it.
Yes, I agree with that totally. Another question, in the ASTD blog you recently stated, let's stop making excuses for our older workers. They will not embrace new learning technologies. Can you give me a little feedback on that comment?
Yeah, if you talk to a company like IBM, which is one of the poster children of using virtual worlds, they have some 20,000 employees in Second Life and other virtual worlds. You'll find that the most enthusiastic users are frequently the boomers and the Xers. It's unlike what you would perhaps think, that it's the younger generation, and of course they are to the younger, the digital native employees coming into the workforce. To them, this is completely native. It doesn't take a whole lot of convincing and teaching, but it's frequently the older workers who enjoy having a fuller set of hair and a buffer body and being able to interact. And in many ways, I mean, this draws on the metaphor of a real life meeting. So the stretch isn't that far. If I try to explain something like Twitter or even Facebook to someone who's not using it and is of an older generation, that's conceptually a fairly difficult concept. But I'm finding that this is actually conceptually a much easier concept. It's just it's a meeting space, just like your physical space, but you're represented by a digital character. It's not that much of a stretch really for anyone, even if they have never been in a virtual space before.
I agree, and especially you feel more comfortable. There's no other barriers. You're not by race or any like that. So I think you kind of let down your defenses and become more engaged in what the speaker's talking about and the people around you. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I hear stories of people who are of minority race or are wheelchair bound or otherwise who frequently feel discriminated in very subtle ways that takes place in the workplace all the time. And here you really get to reinvent who you are. And there are also other forms of sort of barriers to good communication. We hosted recently a collaboration meeting between IBM and Schneider Electric, which is a big industrial company, and IBM is their client. So it was an annual client vendor planning session. They're a big important client to this company, multi-million-dollar account, and they found that in the past when they've held these meetings live, there's a lot of barriers as far as the vendor sitting on one side of the room and the client sitting on the other side of the room, and everyone's waiting for the client executive to open his mouth, and a lot of tension in the room. Versus when they did it in Second Life, although they all knew who was there, after a while you tend to forget who's who, and it again really levels the playing field and make people, in their experience, become much more open and creative in the meeting.
Thank you very much. I was also intrigued by another blog entry concerning webinars. You stated that webinars are the motorized horse carriage of our time, and let's kill webinars before they kill us. How can corporations free themselves of this technology?
Well, I'm finding a lot of large organizations, people are spending majority of their days in these dreadful conference calls and webinars where they're just staring at a PowerPoint slide and listening to a disembodied voice. And of course, it's become a joke. People are multitasking and doing their email and doing 1,000 other things and just pretending to be present in the meeting. And it becoming very inefficient meetings, and they don't get a whole lot of other things done because they have to pretend to be in a meeting while they do the other things. And so this has almost become a charade. And it's really drawing on sort of trying to recreate what we've done in the past, and in essence we've taken some of the most boring aspects, some of the most inefficient aspect of the meeting, the PowerPoints and the moaning presenter, and we've taken away a lot of the stuff that makes a live meeting work well, the personal interaction and free-flowing conversations. And so I think we have, rather than trying to desperately force fit what we've been doing in the past and doing old things in new ways, we need to do new things in new ways, and we need to reinvent the notion of what a class is like and what a meeting is like in the virtual space, and draw on things that you cannot do in a real meeting. Things like just text chatting, for instance, which we're finding at our weekly meetings are really creates very dynamic, large meetings when people have this sort of back channel where they're texting each other to the group, and being able to visualize data, visualize products, and other things are other examples of things that are not possible in real life that we need to start using in more innovative ways.
Right. One thing I think the webinars do are they're cheap and they're fast, and I guess that's why people keep using them.
Yeah.
What do you see are some of the biggest challenges that you are currently facing in your company?
Well, there's really only one real barrier I'm finding. There are a lot of excuses like, oh, our technology is not up to snuff, we don't have the bandwidth, we can't open the firewalls, our people will never like this, our people are too old. All those are just excuses. They aren't real barriers. The only real barrier I'm finding is the bureaucratic class in any organization. It's the forces for status in favor of status quo. It's the entrenched organizations and people in bureaucracies in organizations who really have no interest in improving productivity or improving communication or improving learning and skill development. Their only interest is really in maintaining status quo and not rocking the boat, in avoiding to upset anything, avoiding any type of possible issues in the future by making any type of change. And so you have to find ways to work around these bureaucracies, I'm finding, either by way of finding an executive sponsor who will go on top of the bureaucracies, or by more commonly we're finding we start with evangelists, typically mid-level people who are really passionate about making improvement and learning more efficiently and meeting more efficiently, collaborating more efficiently, who will join us at our weekly meetings here and who will push the issue and get more and more people involved. And after a while, you have an army of evangelists who will be able to overcome these bureaucracies.
You think there's room for smaller companies to be able to engage in these environments, or you have clients that are rather big and have lots of large budgets. You think everyone can play in the same game?
Oh yeah, for sure. Of course, like a good any good consultant, like to to cite our Fortune 100 client list. But of course, we work with a lot of small and mid-sized companies as well. And the beauty with this is that the costs are extremely low and the barriers of entry are so low. So this is accessible for anyone at any cost. For a few $100 you can get started in Second Life if you want to go with a do-it-yourself model. And even if you turn to a consultancy like mine, for a few $1,000 you can find real good solutions. So it scales up real easily, and anyone can get started real at any cost of entry that you choose.
Okay. And finally, my last questions: what do you see as the future of e-learning, and what are the best ways that educators, e-learning, and training professionals can prepare for these future changes?
I think by staying involved and not just reading about these things, but actually living the Web 2.0 life and the Web 3D life, if you want. Join our weekly meetings. For instance, we host these Train for Success meetings every Thursday at 10 o'clock Colorado time in the morning with speaker series. It's a great way to stay abreast with what's going on and get some practice on how to navigate in a 3D space and meet with your peers. Open your own Twitter account. Start twittering away. Start blogging. Start listening to podcasts, and perhaps even create some of your own. You have to be part of the social media and the virtual worlds to really get it. And when you having conversations with someone, I can tell in less than a minute if it's someone who is just an imposter who's read some articles about this, or if it's someone who is actually doing it and who's really getting it.
Okay. Yes, I think as we said before, the more you're in there, the more comfortable you are, and experience is a great teacher in this case. And I can see from the first time I was in a virtual world in Second Life, probably that Brandon Hall meeting that you were facilitating and just discovering all about the virtual worlds. It was quite an experience and quite a challenge at first, but the more you get into it, the better it is. And there's so much wealth and experience in there. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's a great community. People are really helpful, and the fact that everyone's actually using Second Life and other virtual world platforms helps speed up the sharing of knowledge and experience, and so I think we're seeing quite an explosive growth. So as far as your question about how to get started, I think the first step is obviously to get involved on a personal level, and the next step is to start piloting in small scales. Again, the barriers of entry here are real low. Just hold a few meetings here. Feel free to contact myself, and if you want to hold a meeting at my space, I know you've taken advantage of that, Bill, and there are no excuses for not doing this. You can't just spend months after months discussing and overanalyzing this. You just have to dive right in and start piloting and building on your experiences and do it.
That's a great point. As always, it's been a pleasure talking with you, and I hope to see you soon in Second Life, Anders.
Sure.
And
Yep.
thanks very much for taking the time